My name is Jeff Birch. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Azusa Pacific University, and we're here to discuss technology in the digital classroom and how it can be applied for both teachers and learners. We welcome you to this event, and we have an esteemed panel of faculty that we're going to have a panel discussion with, and Mike Trump, our Executive Director of Innovative Teaching and Technology, is going to facilitate that. Here's Mike.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for coming and joining us today.
Good morning.
Never looked better, Mike.
It's a long hallway.
Hey, there he is.
I prefer to be here in person. I hope you guys do too. Well, good morning, and I want to thank everyone for being here today. My name is Mike Trong. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Innovative Teaching and Technology, and I have the great pleasure to host today's faculty Q&A session. I want to cover a couple of things first before we dive into the questions. So I want to really acknowledge this collaboration between IMT and ITT for this event, because without this partnership, this would have not been able to be possible. Also, I want to acknowledge all our vendors who are here. We have HP, we have Intel, we have Intelitech, and we also have Smart Technologies. And again, without their partnership and role, this would not have been possible either. So thank you for all those who are part of this. So teaching in the digital classroom is more than a technology showcase. I want to emphasize that this is really an opportunity for APU to explore the possibilities about the future of classrooms and technology and pedagogy. And this three-day event is an opportunity for all of us to really interact and have conversations that are important. That's really critical to how we teach and how we learn in the future. And we have a great panel this morning of faculty members who will be answering some of the questions that we'll be asking about teaching, technology, and classroom sort of practices. But before we go into the questions, I want to lead off by reading an excerpt from an article that I read. It's called Reimagining Learning Spaces. So it goes like this. So there are good reasons why we don't sleep in the kitchen, eat cereal with a fork, or cut grass with scissors. We have other tools and rooms that allow us to accomplish those tasks with much greater efficiency and better outcome. For hundreds of years, classroom learning took place in rooms based on a single model of collection of desks and tables, all facing instructor's podium or desk. And many classrooms today continue to be arranged in this lecture-style format. But conducting active learning in a conventional arranged classroom can feel a lot like eating cereal with a fork. So it can be done, but there are better ways. And so that sort of sums up really well, I think, some of the challenges that we face today in higher ed. So we'll be touching on three particular themes during our conversation today. So first is about active learning. For over 2 decades, we know through research and lots of studies that active learning based on sort of the constructivist model is a better way to learn compared to sort of the traditional lecture-based learning. And active learning really works across all disciplines. It's not just for the sort of humanities and the small seminars, but it actually can work in large classrooms as well. In addition to active learning, we've also learned that there's idea of a built pedagogy, that architecture oftentimes determine the way we use the space. And so the way the classrooms is built, the way the chairs and the tables are laid out, it influences how faculty interact with students. And hopefully, as we talk today, we'll get to kind of explore a little more of those issues about ways we can promote as opposed to hinder active learning in the classroom. And then finally, I want to talk about this idea of face-to-face. Despite all the talks and trends and lots of energy around online learning today, we really can't replace the real, and that's something that I think is important here. So the face-to-face dimension of learning remains just critical, to the success of many institutions and to teaching and learning mission. And so the fact that we invest so much money and time, energy in making sure we have the right equipment, the right layout, says a lot about how we will continue to invest and to prioritize our learning spaces. So with that, I will ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves and to tell us about your discipline and also just what do you love about what you do here at AP.
I'll start. My name is Rachel Bodell. I am an assistant professor of marketing here at Azusa Pacific University. I'm also a doctorate student at the University of Manchester, hopefully going to graduate this summer. What do I love about what I do? I love reorienting my students' thinking on marketing, that it isn't inherently evil, but it's inherently powerful, and that it's our job to sort out how to do it in the right ways and the most effective ways.
All right, my name is Michael Wong. I am an associate professor in the Department of Physical Therapy and also a teaching and learning fellow here at the university. And my joy in teaching orthopedics in physical therapy largely revolves around helping to shape humans and how they move and how we restore movement so that they can function in life. And so part of the joy of being in that field is helping people reintegrate from potentially devastating injuries or accidents.
My name is Kathleen Baser, and I'm from the School of Education. And I'm a professor and I teach educational technology, and also I teach an undergrad math class. But what I love the most about my discipline, which might sound odd, is I love to teach. And I love engaging the learner in a constructive, dynamic, whether it's online or face-to-face environment. My undergrad math class gives me that face-to-face connection. But the online environment too, I love creating those critical learning spaces that connect the learner, to the learning.
So first one's an easy one. So tell us a little bit about the courses that you teach and whether or not there are opportunities for active learning in the classroom.
Should I start? Okay. What I love about the concept of active learning is teaching the students to take ownership in the process of their own learning process, to understand themselves, because ultimately I feel as faculty I'm trying to give them equipment and tools in their tool belt, because in marketing anyway they're going to need to have high-speed learning potential for the rest of their lives. So I love taking technology, helping them to engage in consumer behavior, principles of marketing. We have a personal branding project where they do workshops in class, and we edit and create things on LinkedIn and figure out how to make the right types of influencers and things like that. And then we have new technology in the Wilden School of Business where they're interview labs. And so they do a mock interview. So they prepare all these pieces. So your traditional online resume, these what we call one sheets, their LinkedIn profiles, and they create targets, meaning they've picked a company and a position, and they come in and we do a mock interview. And those skill sets and doing it in a practical way and all the ways in which we can capture video their mock interview and discuss how their nonverbal cues and things like that come across and how to do things more effectively. We've done this several years now, so they have been getting jobs faster, internships quicker, reaching their targets versus taking their second or third tier options, and that's just really meaningful to me.
I would say something unique to the field, to the healthcare field, is not only is there this need to be a good clinical reasoner, to be able to make good decisions based on patient presentations, but also in physical therapy there's a motor skill component in which we have to teach techniques. We have to show people how to manipulate the spine, to mobilize a knee. And so And there's this also very important concept related to orthopedics, which is where I teach, on patient interaction, of which all of these things, when you read them in 2D off of a page, chapter by chapter, is very difficult to bring to life. It's very difficult to get students to hit the ground running when they have a patient with a lot of pain sitting before them if they've only read about it and read about a technique that they should do. And so I see that environment as ripe for using and leveraging digital technology to bring the patient, their emotions, the way they look and the way they act, that these can be the way that students begin to learn how to interact face-to-face with the patient. So I see that this type of environment is prime to leverage digital technology.
Well, I can't do anything I do without technology because technology for my online environment is my vehicle that I drive to communicate all of their education and their experience and their construction of all this knowledge. So in the online arena, I have to have technology. But the beauty of it is that I can put them in this environment in which they're analyzing and constructing and taking it back and trying to implement it into their classrooms and doing it. And I can engage them all. So they all have a voice and they're all part of this collaborative adventure. In my math class, I really can't teach my math without technology either because I'm a constructivist, if you haven't caught on to that yet, by nature, because I believe that we have to do it to be able to understand it. And so I've always been that way in my teaching. So we use a lot of manipulatives in the math class to get that foundation, and I need the technology to be able to show them that and to be able to experience it together, you know, versus me holding up a base 10 block. So it's a part of my whole arena.
So, Kathleen, can you kind of continue and talk about sort of some of the specific technologies that you do use in your online as well as your face-to-face class?
So in my online class, we do use a lot of our LMS technologies to empower us as much as possible. We also use technologies that help us connect synchronously so that we can see each other. We were just online last night sharing some global learning project initiatives and proposals. And we use from simple to Hangouts, you know, to more robust environments. Our synchronous sessions I do not utilize in the classes I teach to deliver content. I use them to clarify and to connect. So I use my online LMS to deliver the content in that experience. In my face-to-face class, in my math class, my favorite technology right now is my little portable document camera that I bring in, and I connect it to the large screen because it allows me to show them anything I want to. And I don't like my back to them, so I am not a turn around and write on the whiteboard person. I want to see where I lost them and how I lost them and if they're with me. So I teach, you know, just like that. So I actually literally put a whiteboard underneath my document camera to project all the problems that I'm showing them. So
since you teach both in online as well as in person, do you find there's a big gap in terms of connecting with the students?
I actually do. In the online arena, and actually you can't hide. So I know where every one of my students is academically and what they're thinking. In the face-to-face arena, you can sort of hide. You know, you can piggyback on everybody else's learning. But what I do with that environment is I create an online portal that we are able to communicate and discuss. We were just discussing types of worship where they're online too, at you know, behind the scenes. But I do like seeing them. I do like saying hi to them on campus. So, you know, there's both. But I think in the face-to-face, you do need the online support to create that continuance of learning.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. So, Michael, what about you? What sorts of technology do you use in your teaching?
You know, as I was driving in this morning, I thought, what is different about our program compared to every other program, most programs in the United States? The content that we deliver is very similar, but without context, the content is a jumbled mess. And so we've leveraged, we have been building clinical reasoning apps based on the most common types of problems that they will see in the clinic. We are going to populate the student's mind with conditions and how these patients move and how they look and what they complain about. And all the techniques that we're going to show them in lab are linked to these conditions. So constantly throughout the entire course, they will have a place in which context can be found so that it can orient themselves in space as we layer on more and more techniques, more and more layers of complexity related to the emotions, to the psychological well-being of the patient, how we have to modify what we say. And so I think we've built apps to do that. We've also built apps so that when I show a technique once in class, which is how we used to do it, they could watch it before class, they could watch it again and again and again. It's a multiplier of me, that I can walk side by side with them endlessly, tirelessly. And so in some ways it may seem narcissistic. In the other ways, the students always wish they had more contact to hear that again. And so in our classroom space, in the same way as Kathleen, we've delivered some of the more didactic content online, of which I do miss that contact. But the face-to-face class time is teasing out the nuances of applying these techniques and applying these tests, watching videos of these patients, and then being able to tease out the value of what they watched online. So there's at least the apps that we've been building. We also use the video cameras because our classrooms cannot give a good view to everybody to see a technique. And so now we have a video camera that can have everyone see close up in the moment when I'm showing the technique, and we record it so that when they run to their labs to practice, we upload that recording right up to the cloud, and boom, they can revisit what they just saw. It's amazing to leverage these technologies.
So, can I ask a follow-up question about sort of what you've seen in terms of the difference it has made for your students using your mobile app and the cameras and so on?
Sure. The ability of the mobile apps to give them a place, a lighthouse in the fog, is very critical to the students' ability to learn, make mistakes, come back to a place where they feel safe, because the material, it gives them a 20,000-foot view of where we're at, when many times they're so deep in the acceptance and trying to digest all this material. We have had a lot of great feedback from the clinicians saying your students hit the ground running. We don't have to do anything with them. They've already seen this over and over again, practiced it over and over again. We've created a level of motivation for them before even the information is delivered. They can see what techniques are coming, who are the types of people that these techniques are going to be relevant for. So you're creating in their mind contextualized silos in which information can be delivered deliberately. And I think that is where I see the students have really benefited from it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What about you, Rachel?
I've seen these apps. They're pretty cool. I use technology in different ways in different classes. I think I'll start by highlighting how I use it in consumer behavior. Consumer behavior is sort of a hybrid of sociology, anthropology, and marketing strategy. So we talk about these concepts, and sometimes it's hard for them just based on the textbook illustration, which is in many cases already over with in terms of being relevant. They go out and take snapshots on their smartphones, and they look for it in their retail environments, and so each week when we're talking about a strategy, they are meant to go find it and see it. They take pictures of it or video it, and then they add to our LMS, Sakai, our learning management system, they add it in a student ad page. And that way, when we go back to it and we're discussing it, we can qualify the limitations of the concept and how it's really illustrated well in this example. And they can see each other, and the concept gets in there deeper and more effectively. And I just had an email from a student last week, which is always reassuring and affirming that this is so cool, and now they can't stop seeing it everywhere. I've had students tell me I've ruined their ability to watch TV and advertisement because they can just see it in an analytical perspective as opposed to just in an I don't know what's happening state. So that's been cool.
What about other things in the classroom? Do you
I love the interactivity of the peer perspective in business, teams, colleague working. All that's really important. So I use a lot of Google Drive tools. So the slides, forms, presentations, and I teach them actually how to publish the YouTube videos and their own slides into the learning management system, because they actually have to do this. And I've been hearing from students, the employer that I want to work for is asking for a video of me talking about this, or they want me to do an advertisement that's in line with their brand about them. And so giving them some of the technological tools and allowing them to interact with each other. Right now they're doing a public service announcement competition in Teams. So they're identifying an issue, they have to video it or do a print advertisement of it. They capture it, add it into Sakai, and there's this peer evaluation where they can, on the criteria we're looking for, they can evaluate one another to see if their strong suit is creative, if their strong suit is research, and it really helps them to have this iterative process to learn what their strong suits are, because I always tell them, I know you don't like team projects, but honestly learning what you do well and what your counterpart does well and how to utilize that effectively is what you're going to need to be successful in this field.
So maybe I'll start with Kathleen on the next question. So you talked about sort of using technology, and with technology oftentimes come frustrations and challenges, but also opportunities. And so can you elaborate a little bit about some of those things that you face using technology, the good, the bad, and the ugly too?
Well, sometimes I thrive on problems because I like to solve technology problems. But I think in my face-to-face class, one of the frustrations that I do have is the lack of seamlessness between the devices being able to talk to each other. So because the lectern is over here and my desktop is over here, and I bought a long cord so that they can, whenever I switch back and forth, the lectern will time me out, it'll time me out, and then it'll take a while for the desktop, for my document camera for the desktop projector to take that signal and this signal. So I lose that seamlessness that I like when I teach. I like to move from device to device without any problem. So that is a little bit of a frustration. In the online arena, I always welcome a better improvement to a seamless environment and to be able to interact between the components. I would love a like button in the forums. As silly as that sounds, I would love it. But I think you have more frustrations with technology in the face-to-face arena than you do online, because you can fix things behind the scene and nobody knows last night our hangout was the wrong link and I fixed it and nobody even knew that we were having a problem. So, but my students, what they have to do is they have to be able to troubleshoot all this frustration and all these things that go wrong in the classroom. So they have to be equipped to be able to, on the fly, fix something.
And these are students that are potentially going to be in schools.
They're already in schools. They're already credentialed teachers infusing technology into their teaching learning environments.
So in some ways, I guess having problems is the perfect learning environment.
Right. So I actually will plant some problems to see what they will do with them. And, yes, I did that intentionally.
So what about you, Michael?
With using technology in the classroom, I think we've all experienced it as well. I've developed a little repertoire of useless but trivial skills like juggling markers or erasers while the computer's trying to connect to the monitor, telling bad jokes. I've got a whole slew of those. And I think part of it is to be partly wireless is painful. To have an iPad in your hand but be tethered to the lectern doesn't really optimize the value of being able to wander through the classroom to see what people are thinking or writing. I also find the challenge of that I think technology has answers for, to be able to give students an ability to raise their hand anonymously in the moment. I think that's part of the value of, again, this type of technology. So it is somewhat frustrating yet to not have that capability, to allow their voices to speak back in, to make it really two-way. And I think also in our initial releases of the apps, where we released them in the iTunes store, it made it such that half the class, the Android lovers, were going to have a mutiny. That you'd built this amazing app, and it was only for the Apple users. And so, of course, we spent time and money to build the web app version and eventually the Android version. But so there will always be this complication of multiple platforms, I think, as a challenge for utilizing some of this media. So those are a couple of things.
So as a follow-up, how do you see these sort of many inconveniences or frustrations as an instructor, but also as a educational technology developer? Like, how does it inform what you do?
We, every single thing in physical therapy education that we have found to fall short based on the old technology, we are now building. We are filming every test for every class, every faulty movement, or every type of patient that we used to have to read on paper. We're filming them all. And so we are now going to leverage what we've started with and let it creep into every area of physical therapy to change the entire way that it's taught, to change the entire way that people learn, and give students access to these contextual silos. Wherever their instructors will teach them, the information's the same. We're all accredited by the same accrediting body. But we actually have the opportunity, and we're translating actually all of these apps into Mandarin, into Farsi, into Spanish, because the same material can be leveraged worldwide and instantly updated. Every time a new article comes out with a new technique, boom, we film it, we pump it into the web, everybody's updated. So we're no longer left at the whim of whether it was time for you to make your new edition of a book. And so we have that vision of any shortcoming that we see in physical therapy education that we can leverage technology to fix, and then we can pump it out to the world, we're going to do. So.
What about you, Rachel? Some frustrations?
Yeah, well, to kind of streamline what Kathleen and Mike are saying, I have gone through this similar process of similar problems, things timing out, or the students don't have an education. Usually there's a chunk of them that haven't used the learning management system or Google Drive tools, or they don't know how to make a Word document, a PDF, some basic skills that honestly they will need in their year. So I've stopped and I've given myself time in the classroom and included more instruction in my syllabus so that I stop and tell them, did you know, as we're going through this Google presentation that I link into our learning management system and I'm giving live, that you can click the little settings icon and follow all of my notes in my notes section, because some of them are more visual or auditory learners. So me, I'm trying to learn more about how to be a teacher, to your point, because I have a skill set in marketing and application, and so I'm hybriding that with being a good educator. And then even with YouTube videos, some of them I said just click more and look at the transcript if you want to follow along. So I've given myself more time in classes to help them register. We use Duolingo in my global marketing management class, and they more or less compete and try and practice their language skills in a foreign language. And I go through the process of helping them get on there and give a little bit more time to that conversation. And sometimes I hide secret extra credit in my syllabus, and then I highlight those students that tell everyone else how to do something. So that how-to part, and then how to overcome technology, how to just Google something you don't know or watch a YouTube video, I tell them I use it when my toilet breaks, and you're going to have to use it when you don't know how to do a function in Excel. It's just the future. So learn how to learn yourself. Don't get paralyzed and freeze, because I was getting that sense of tension and frustration, and I'm like, they feel it too. So bridge, help themselves.
Yeah, I think Rachel, what you said, the last point, I think is very poignant, and I think it's important for other faculty at APU that may be experiencing frustrations with technology. So what would be sort of one or two things we'd tell faculty who are either afraid of using technology because it will fail when you need it most, or they're using it but then they're just kind of running into these bumps in the road, and how would you help them kind of to navigate that terrain?
For myself, I try and have a very detailed plan. Anne over here, Annie's taught me about scripting out my class and storyboarding things, and I share that with them more or less on a very detailed syllabus that most of them their eyes are like, how many pages is this? And I'm like, well, the course calendar details everything and how to do it with extra hyperlinks. So planning is really important. Second, maintaining flexibility and allowing for a little bit of time in the classroom before, during, or after to go over, to remind, and to answer questions on the how-to part and not act like they should just already know, all of them should be perfect users. So plan, be flexible, and then, to Mike's point, have contingency plans. I usually have contingency plans in store, so if this monitor or projector isn't working, well, we've done it before. They all open their laptops and the slideshow's already in there in Sakai, so we're all interacting together on their own devices. Contingency plans. So plan, flexibility, and contingency plans.
And lots of trial and errors. So we have some really top-notch technology companies here listening, and I want to just ask you guys if you guys want to tell them something about either the product that you're currently using, or if there's a dream product that you want them to develop, what would it be? Like, what do you want to tell the companies that are creating and inventing these new technologies that will be in the classrooms in the future?
Well, I'll start. One of the most important things is that you keep whatever you're developing connected to the learning. So you have to keep close to teachers and educators and curriculum. Because while you might think that it's great that you can draw a circle on a whiteboard, we might not think that's so great, you know, maybe for kindergarten and teaching geometry. But if you keep connected to student learning outcomes and what we want to do with the curriculum and what we need to do in our environments, then you're going to empower yourself. And I think the second thing that I would say is get into teaching learning environments too. Walk alongside of us, and that way you will be able to partner with us and make things that we can truly utilize. You don't want me to go on to my dream classroom, but
We'll
I'll let them.
That's
That's right.
Next question. We'll
I'll let
talk about
them.
that,
What was the question
yeah.
again?
So since the technology company representatives are here, are there things you want to tell them about the current products that they're developing, or things that you've seen or you've used, or do you want to tell them about some of the changes they need to make, or anything you want them to know?
I would just piggyback on what Kathleen said in saying that even in our own development of our own apps, we are learning about how to help people use them. So the development of the technology in isolation immediately dooms it in reality. The technology, though developed in partnerships, related to a very focused problem that it is meant to solve, can then be utilized worldwide to solve this very specific problem. Because I don't see technology as being this answer to every part of teaching's problems. But it certainly has its skill set, its value, in which it can greatly answer a problem that has no good answer, perhaps in face-to-face or in textbook. And so the focus of the technology, when done in the context of a true and very vital teaching learning objective or problem that we cannot overcome well, that is a guarantee for success, actually. So I see that as really the fundamental part of inviting all the technology companies in their conceptualization and actually development of the product. Is without context, again, it's another fabulous tool that we'll never be able to figure out how to use because it didn't match what we needed. Yeah.
Similarly, integration is key for me. So I find a lot of cool apps like for polling and stuff like that, but then there'll be the limitation that will only work in PowerPoint, so that requires me to use my own computer or laptop, versus I like things to be on Google Slides because then it can real-time be reflected in the learning management system and allow them to follow me in notes and things. So I would love cool apps to integrate with existing tools, like Google Drive would be a a major obvious platform. And other things like learning management systems, just more effectively, so that we're not spending as much time on the whole import edit process and more time on the learning ourselves and teaching them how to use stuff as opposed to editing. So I do have, to her point, some dream digital things. And the other thing could be that they already exist and I just don't know about them yet. So I was worried about that. But that's a good problem, I guess, to have.
Well, so I will transition to the next question, but kind of hang on a little bit to this question about what you want to tell the vendors. So given that you're in marketing, research and all that, how do you, like, what would you say to these ed tech companies in terms of whether or not they're doing a good job marketing what they're doing? And in addition to that, do you see some of the sort of the ideal things that are, talking about the ideal classroom? I mean, what would be the best angle to get at the teacher? Because you're saying how you can have these great technology, but if you don't know about it, it's no use. And even if you have a great technology, but if it's not done, if it's not marketed well, if it's not explained well, then it's not of use anyway to a lot of people. So how would you put those marketing and sort of the usefulness of technology together to, what advice would you have, I guess, for?
Yeah, well, to Kathleen's point, I would just use our marketing phrases, focus groups with professors, but niched out into their specific fields is going to be key. So education, physical therapy, marketing, focus group, ethnographic types of research, like getting in there, observing the classroom, seeing what it is that we're, particularly in the professors that are open to using and are already trying to capture technology, to see what's working for them and what isn't. And then having that person be a knowledge expert and say, well, these things already exist, but I can see some serious holes that might be neat opportunities that they can move up their R&D food chain to create new product lines and that hopefully can piggyback off of things that already exist, because there's a learning curve not only for us, but the students as well. I understand that there's a little bit of a misconception that this generation knows a lot about technology. They do and they don't, because social usage of technology isn't always consistent or the same as professional use of technology. So I mean, I have to do a lot of refinement and trying to pull over what they already know into this platform. And so yeah, getting closer to us and integrating with existing things.
So Rachel, I'll start with you for the last question here. So you're in a brand new redesigned building, the Wilden building, which has lots of new technology. If you had sort of your way, like what would you want in that new building, and what are some of the cool things you'd like?
Some of it I don't know about yet, because I know there's a smart board, so I did want to come over here and figure out how my own board works in my room, because that sounds really cool, and I don't think it'll be a high learning curve for myself or others, but I'd like to get that figured out today, so that's exciting. All the way from the new doors in our room, so there's no more static like number and name of the room. It's a digital, I think it almost looks like a mini iPad-ish type of device that says what time and what professor's in this room at this time, and you can actually slide on it and go forward or backward to see who's going to be in the future, if the room's going to be open. That's cool. And to Kathleen's point, if that could be, I'm Italian, I'm not supposed to be using my hands. If you could connect that with the laptops and devices that are already in the room. So for example, I like to use the terminals that are already in a room, and it takes roughly 5 to 7 minutes to get that device powered up and going and logged in. And when there's only 15-minute transitions between classes, that's just too long, or it eats into my first impression and the momentum of getting started. So if they already know on my screen that I'm going to be in the room, if they could auto-log me in 5 minutes before, that would be really cool. And then streamline that with clicker devices so that I can roam the room more effectively, and polling could be more interactive. I would love the ability for, so right now I use my iPad mini using Google Forms. I take attendance. I know almost all their names. It's a goal of mine, just a personal goal. And so before class starts, I have almost all of them already checked on the form that they're there. And then I just do a last call about 5 minutes in, and then I click submit. Then it auto-populates into the learning management system. They know the date, time stamp, and if they were there or not. according to the record. I think it would be so great to have a tool that on their own smartphone devices, GPS check-in, could just check into class, because again, I don't want that to eat into my momentum, but I think holding them accountable to some extent to being there is an important thing in undergraduate when we, in our context, are primarily dealing with younger adults. So that would be some of the things. And then a Google Calendar that could more easily reflect my course calendar that links into Sakai and give them text reminders. Because right now there's silos. I have to do this app, and then I have to have my TA send them text reminders from here that's linking to this. So streamlining the sharing and the communication would be great.
That sounds like a great
Is it dreamy enough for you?
Yes, very much. What about you, Michael?
I would say that for our needs, the ability to wirelessly project to the monitor when we are demonstrating techniques on the fly is very nice. It's very clunky to set up the video camera, to plug it in, set up a different LCD monitor because we can't get it to connect to the one that's hooked to the ceiling. So we do that before every class. That would be a brilliant solution, that we could wirelessly switch from the laptop to our iPad, have someone who has a great view, and everyone can see it. So I would say that is one. And the other thing that I really miss in the face-to-face, in which I think we can build our reputation on this blended, hybrid learning environment in which the face-to-face classroom does allow for this anonymous hand-raising, asking of questions seamlessly, that it doesn't have to be specially set up with a special poll, that it could just be, this is how the classroom is. Whenever you have a question, it populates. That would be brilliant, actually, for every content area, I think. And those questions perhaps could be then summarized at the end of class, and the instructor has it so that they can answer it in one massive email. I like to do a radio podcast called K-Love, KDPT, Love Songs on the Coast, where I answer the best 10 questions of the week. And I deliver it so that, again, they can hear it. Not just one student with one question, but the 10 best questions delivered to everybody. So I think that kind of environment allows a student to feel the value of coming to a program or to a school that desires to hear their voice and to walk side by side with them as we grow their mind, we grow who they are. So I think those are a couple big things.
Andy will work on the radio studio in the classroom for you.
Nice.
What about you, Kathleen? What would be the ideal digital classroom?
I'll keep it simple. I'll try to keep it simple, I promise. But I actually would, and I'm going to talk about math right now, but I actually would love to have a teaching station, glass, whatever it is, that I can have multiple devices that are seamlessly connected. But here's the part I really want. I want to be able to project and push out manipulatives to them. So they also, as students, have a work surface in which they can project their collections, their manipulative collections, their learning to all of us. So I could say, okay, you know, we're working on base 10 blocks right now, and we're working, I mean, this is elementary math, so, you know,